welcome everybody. We are here with episode 9 in our season 1. I'm your host, Eric Ramirez, with my awesome co-host, Mando Gomez.
Let's get it to rumble. I know, right?
Right. Hey, I should say this is episode 9. I think we're going to try to introduce a little bit more Spanish here. Hey, so anyways, we've got a packed episode today. We're going to talk a little bit about health for Latinos. This is going to cover diet, maybe some interventions, and talking about a little bit about metabolic health. Let's go.
Dale.
Well, before we dive deep into these things, I want to talk a little bit about a wedding. I went to a wedding last week, and there's some funny things that I noticed. First of all, I think we were the first ones there at the wedding.
So let me guess, you were on time or a little bit earlier.
We were on time, and it's like crickets when you walk in. First of all,
a true Mexican wedding.
It's a true Mexican wedding. Actually, a lot of people came in from Mexico to the wedding. There's probably about 20-30 people that came in from Mexico for the wedding. But yeah, we were the first ones there, and this was just straight to kind of reception, right? We didn't go to the ceremony part. This is just straight to reception. But yeah, we were the first ones there. And I'm like, well, usually it's if you're on time, you're late. But, it's Mexican time, I think, is a little bit different.
30 minutes. It's one of those unwritten rules. Nobody says that, but it's 30 minutes.
It's so true. But, that's one of the big differences within the cultures, right? It's like, American culture, we got to be early to everything. And, that's something that I think, as Latinos, we're always fighting with. I know I am. I try to at least be on time, but being early, you're asking a lot for me there.
To be honest, I adjust. Like if I know that it's gonna be, mainly Americans, I'll be early. But if I know that it's just Mexican, it's like I know that they're gonna be late. Kind of be in the middle, maybe 15 minutes, not the whole 30 minutes. But yeah, I do adjust.
That's right. You try to shift it a little bit, and there's certain things that I know that I like, even with my own family, like my siblings and things like that. Whenever we're doing family events, I usually try to tell my brother like at least 30 minutes, like we're meeting 30 minutes prior the real time, just to make sure he gets there kind of a little closer to being on time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so what happened in the wedding? Yeah. What happened? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, we got there, and you know what? Here's one of the good things about actually being on time, though, is that usually everyone comes to greet you since you're the first ones there. But you notice, like, whenever you go to a party or a gathering or anything like that, that's like a very, very explicit thing. Like, as you're growing up, as little kids, you're told, hey, you need to go say hi to every single person that's there all the way up, and you usually start with your grandparents or the oldest people there, right? And you work your way down. But that's a very specific thing to do. And, you get in trouble if you don't do that. I know growing up, it's like, okay, we go, you don't want to, but you have to, And the funny thing is, like, on the way out, you've got to do everything in reverse, right? You got to say bye to everybody. So it takes forever to get back out to these parties. Is that something, also in Mexico, it's the same way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you know what is interesting too? Sometimes the handshake, kiss in the cheek, right? And a hug. So my partner, Katie, she didn't know, right? Like for her, it was very awkward in the beginning.
Take some practice.
Trying to understand the mechanic, right? Like, should I handshake, or could you kiss like in the cheek, right? And if you go even more South America, even like men will kiss, right, in their cheeks, right? So on both cheeks, like mwah, mwah.
Yeah, double. You got to do double, right?
so yeah, I guess it depends on the country and the region, but I do feel that is kind of that very friendly type of culture, right? Like, which is the Latin American culture.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's really, it's a good skill to have, right? I think that helps you even in business and things like that. In a normal American culture, at work, greeting people, having formal handshakes, like it's just part of how you greet people and you make connections and relationships. So I think it's a good kind of thing to learn as a young kid, because it
Mhm.
helps you in everything. I think growing up.
Yeah. And no, doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted, your parents are like, nope, go and say
Yeah.
hi.
Exactly. You gotta do that. Oh man. But anyways, the weddings are always so fun. I don't. Sometimes I don't like to this time around. I had, I was a little tired. It's kind of a long week at work, but whatchamacallit, there's some crazy things that I noticed that I don't always maybe like I guess so. Have you seen this thing called like the snake dance, where they play the music and
Mhm.
people are holding hands and they're all stretched out and they're kind of weaving through the whole thing, and the
Yeah.
music gets faster and faster and faster, and people are pulling faster, 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 and people end up getting thrown into tables and stuff like that.
That's exactly the point of the thing, man.
Let's see how many people we can hurt.
Basically, I mean, it's like you see other cultures that they leave the people on when their chairs, which
Yeah.
sometimes Mexicans do, and sometimes Jews do as well, right? So I think that it's part of the whole, ceremony or even the dance between
Yeah,
the
like the
people that
mother
get
father dance and
married,
things like that. Oh
or
yeah,
like
the first
yeah,
dance.
all of those. Uh, but yeah, it's normal though. For me,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it would be weird if some of these things like the Macarena, like man, and the dance there, right? It's like
Yeah. The
I, I,
Cupid
I,
shuffle. The what was the other ones?
yeah, or like the cowboy type of a songs, right? That they start just dancing with the rhythm, right? Like left, right, and back,
Yeah.
forward. So I think that that's what makes the party, right? Which is like
Yeah.
kind of the traditions of the party.
Another one that I like is the dollar dance. I think that's kind of cool. But they were they were passing around the bucket like, hey, you gotta put your dollar in, go get your dance on. That's an interesting one too, right? Is that
I,
part of
I'm not. I don't think so. That one it might be. I usually what they do with the money just to
Mhm.
contribute. Sometimes they put it on like in their clothes. They
Yeah.
put pins and they just
Mhm.
get filled up with like cash, right? Like a suit
Yeah,
of like
cash
like
money.
like cash money. So yeah, that's
Well, you
very
do that for
common.
birthdays too, right? Mm. Seen
I
that,
I,
right?
I yeah, actually no, not for birthdays. But
No.
I have the tradition like for my kids,
Hmm.
depending of the number of years, I'm giving them an X amount of cash, and now they like it. they're
Now it's
they're counting.
expected.
They are counting with that money.
Well, by the end of the night, also, then there's also the liquor bottles that get passed out to all the tables and stuff like that. So I don't know if folks, if you have a chance to go to Mexican wedding, I think it's a lot of fun. If you haven't been to one, I think it's kind of neat to see the different parts of the culture,
Mhm.
and see what different folks actually do. So I think that's pretty neat.
You know who tops the type of weddings? Indians. They
Yeah.
they do like 1 week wedding.
That's
So
what
it's
I've
like,
heard.
oh,
It's like a
like I thought that,
huge thing.
yeah, I thought that we party, but no, man. Like the length of their weddings is massive.
Have you been to one? I haven't been.
Uh, only like the 1 day, but
Uh-huh.
never like the whole.
Uh,
That would be a neat experience to actually go to India and and do the whole like 1 week like and it really depends on the wedding because sometimes they stay with their groom or with the bride, right? And they come
mhm.
together again. And but yeah, I at least I hear their weddings. I have a bunch of Indian friends, and
Yeah.
yeah, their weddings are sound always fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanna try one day. But you
I
know what? No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead because I do have an experience of a wedding in Cabo. But finish what you were saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to go check one out. But one of the good things is, there's some family that I hadn't seen for maybe a little bit. So it's always good to see somebody. But you know what I found out is
Mm,
that my uncle. Remember my uncle that got hacked by Dennis the hacker?
yeah,
He ended up getting his
you got me
Facebook
good.
account back. Yeah, he's like, he got me good. Yeah, he got his account back. We got him done. We were actually all on the right track, but it's so weird that Facebook noticed like he wasn't in his hometown. That since he lives out of town and he came into town for that party, and so he couldn't get through until he went back home, and they saw he was kind of on his, I guess, normal network or something like that. So I guess they have some metadata that they keep track of that they can tell when something's weird. But he said that once he got back into his account, he saw all the different attempts of people trying to get in from all over the state and also in from some different states. So they must have had some type of VPN network, or they sold right away access to account, and there was all kinds of people trying to get access to account. But the good thing I guess that I did is before he didn't have like a 2-factor on, so we turned that on in order to kick them out. So I think that prevented kind of any further damage. But yeah, he got back in, he's super happy, and so that's really good.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, a few months back, like I think that in March, I went to this wedding in Cabo. Dude, my friend, I know these guys from many years, like when I was like 8 years old, like in elementary school. And it's funny because they kind of like we were little kids, right? And suddenly they start connecting each other, and they actually moved to Houston 10 years ago in 2012, something like that. They moved to Houston. They stayed here for a few years, and then they left. But right now they got married, and the reason why they got married is because their kids asked them. It's like, hey, how come you guys never got married?
Oh, really?
And it started like that. It's like a little bit of pressure from their kids, which they are like maybe 10, 12 years old. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should get married, right? And that's literally, they start preparing and all of that. My friend, he is in logistics. He has his own business. Then he likes to just like be like on time for everything, right? Because that's obviously logistics. So I was expecting a decent wedding, right? Dude, like the guy just threw like everything like through the window, right? Like he like literally anything that you can imagine. Fireworks, check. Artist, like literally he put an scenario or like a B type of I forgot the name because I don't listen a lot of that music, but it's called I think Roma or something like that, the group. And it is pretty big over there. And he got them there, right? And everybody like, it's like the group, blah blah blah. Like, and yeah, everybody just was rushing to listen to them. He knows how to sing, right? So he was singing too, and his family, like you name it. It was beautiful. Like, and it started from like 10 a.m. and it finished like I don't even know what time it finished, right? So actually it's funny because I have a video. They have these beautiful like decorations on each of the tables.
Yeah.
And suddenly they start giving away some of those little fireworks for persons, and somebody just catch on fire that thing.
Oh, wow. When weddings go wrong.
Yeah, but right away, yeah, somebody just start putting water on that thing, but yeah, it was part of the whole show, right?
Yeah.
But it was an amazing wedding. They also did like little ceremony on the beach too. So they had they're Catholic, so they did the church type of a wedding, and as well they say some things for their vows and whatever on the beach. So beautiful wedding.
Well, yeah, those are always the fun ones to go to. You usually have a real good time whenever they're kind of on time. When the cake is served on time and there's plenty of good food, things like that, right? Alcohol is flowing. So I think a lot of times that makes it real cool. Well,
yeah, for sure.
You know what was kind of funny, and this is kind of one of the things that kind of brought us into today's topic about health is like, obviously at the wedding, everyone's catching up and everyone talks about, okay, this is what hurts me now. This is what I'm doing with the doctor. People start sharing a little bit about that, but a lot of folks are kind of like anti-health. They're like, man, I don't want to go to a doctor, or I don't want to go to the hospital. They're like, you know what they say about going to the hospital? Once you go in, you never come back out. I just like, wow, like those are some strong feelings. And I don't necessarily know that it's fear based or if it's like macho based or what it is. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think that's a real prevalent thought about the healthcare just in general in the Latino community.
You know, it might be a little bit of a lot of the things that you describe, right? A little bit also ignorance, right? A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of fear, right? On overall. So yeah, and I think that maybe some of the things that we want to do in this pod is to tell you it's okay, right? Some of these topics we glance it and just to point you in certain directions, right? But
Yeah.
for that, I think that eh, I'll give you tell you a story, right? My mom got COVID in the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and basically we knew that it was COVID because my dad got tested, and yeah, he got COVID. But my
Sure.
mom is like, why you don't go and test it? Because obviously we kind of know that she got it. She was afraid to get tested. Like, I don't want to know that I have COVID. Like,
Yeah.
mom.
It's not going
It's
to
like
change the fact that you have COVID.
exactly, but it's exactly what you're saying, right? Like, kind of the fear of the test, the fear of
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you got it, right? And then now you ask my mom, and she's like, I don't know if I had it or not.
Plausible deniability. I don't know. It's a
Which for me is like, mom, you got it, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
your oxygen even went down a little bit
Ay, ay, ay.
on
Yeah.
that. So, and but I think that is there is a whole series of things, right? And for some things like that might even help you to prevent or to have a better diagnosis on this. But yeah, I do see a lot of people not wanting to know.
Yeah. I totally see that. And in some way, I think people, one of the reasons they don't want to know, at least, or do test tests, because they don't want to change. And I get that because people are set in their ways and things like that. And, in a lot of cases, a lot of the issues that we have are caused by kind of like the food that we eat and just our daily way of life. And so they don't want to. They don't have to change their favorite things, like all the
Mhm.
food that we do. It's just ingrained in our culture. So I can kind of see that. Well, one
It,
thing I want to bring up before we get too deep into these topics is
mm,
we did get a little bit of feedback, right? In terms of, hey, like, you guys maybe should try go like super deep dive and present some of these topics. And I think maybe that's something that we can do in the future on some specific topics. But the way we're set up now, I think our approach is to try and just surface different topics that we think are important that you might like. But we want to have you guys really, if there's something that piques your interest, you should go and do your own research, right? Or look into it more. And really, if there's something that you think it's important for us to do deep dive, send us a message and we can look to try and do a deep dive topic on some of these things. So while we're going to talk kind of about a lot of things, it's about in general about health here. Neither of us are doctors. We're not medical doctors. So we're just trying to surface some of these topics so that you're aware of them and maybe give some pointers just from our own experiences and people that we know that might help.
yeah, for sure. And some of these things is like that to spark your motivation to be able to do it. Like going back to what you were saying, culture is very important, right, for us, and the food is one principal ingredient. And I remember multiple people, right, that I know that they have trouble like in their stomach. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot handle any like spices, right, or salsas or whatever. It's like, nope, I'm gonna continue to eating
I don't care
irritants.
what you say.
Dude, my grandma and grandpa both they have diabetes, and they will literally not never stop Coca-Cola, the real Coca-Cola, right? So,
Yeah.
and they will eat their pan, right, like their bread every night, right? So
Yeah.
and their sugar in their coffee. So I think that maybe if they will just lower a little bit, they will be able to handle it better the diabetes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
I
didn't
mean,
change their diet.
I think that's when you're looking at health in general, I mean, that's going to be one of your number one things. It's your diet. And we talked about previously, right? The Mexican
Mhm.
price index. What's in the Mexican price index? Things that Latinos are buying. It's tortillas, pan dulce, Coca-Cola, bolillos, and of course you got your modelos in there. I don't know if we included in the MPI, but
Corona, or Dos
Corona,
Equis.
okay, or Dos Equis. Okay, there's the reason I say it's Modelo is because I think Modelo right now
Number
is the
one.
number one beer sold in the United States. Number one beer sold in the United States. So it surpassed a lot of the other even American beers like your Bud Lights, Budweiser, things like that. So it's pretty interesting. So it's not just the Mexicanos or the Latinos that like Modelo.
Yeah, yeah.
It's people like it across the board, but that goes for Corona, and Dos Equis as well. But back to the point, that's those are kind of staples within the diets, right?
Mhm.
And even on top of that, I think for a lot of Latinos that maybe are out working throughout the day, maybe as trades, things like that. I think a lot of people rely on maybe fast food.
Yeah.
So maybe not as many high quality foods, perhaps. So a lot of
Ingredients.
that in the ingredients, yeah, a lot of that kind of feeds into these health topics. So I think it's important to point out that there's some things that we can do in terms of diet and things like that can alter things in our lives.
Yeah, you pointed out. I think that now lately I've been paying way more attention on what I consume, the type of food, dude. But it's expensive. It's
Yeah.
like everything that is like organic, right? And it's kind of like sad because I was even thinking, like the baby boomers, they got it good, man. I mean, a lot of the products were natural, right? Like there was not
Hmm.
even plastic in their blood because there was no plastic,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
They were glass or cans, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that a lot of the products with that they are containing plastic, it has been found that a lot of us, we have like plastic in our blood, right? Which is like, we'll
Hmm.
see our generation how turn out in when we are like in the boomers age, right?
Yeah.
But I think that something that we can use is to try to use products. And I know that it's hard to cook at home, right? It's like it's tough, but to see the ingredients, right? It's very likely that if you have a label on the products, like, well, it's not that organic, right?
Yeah.
So fruit, your veggies, all of that. I've been explaining to my daughters, right, how to eat healthy, because I think that is important from very very young age. Dude, they just like chicken nuggets, right? Like it's like, just like, this is ridiculous, and ketchup, right? Like I just and it is hard, right, as a parent sometimes
Yeah.
to be able to, like, just eat your food or eat your veggies, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I don't know, a lot of people they truly like veggies.
I like veggies. I do, but not all of them. It's not across the board.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some. I do personally like tomato and onions, right? So those
Hmm.
are kind of the ones that I enjoy. The green ones maybe in some kind of salads, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, you have to mix it. I when I travel, I did had I noticed that other cultures, they have more balanced food, right? Like you'll see in their plates, kind of almost the 30-30-30, right? You have their protein, their carbs, and their veggies. And sometimes you see here in the diets that we don't, right? We don't have that.
Yeah, that's very true. One of the ways that I've used in the past to try to get more vegetables is I just blend them. I make a smoothie with a little bit of just a small amount of fruit, just
Hmm.
not throw off the sugar content. But at least
Yeah.
that's a good way of getting in the nutrients that your body needs. There's things like you can take vitamin supplements, whatever, but I think there's actual vegetables, leafy greens, spinach, kale, stuff like that. You cover the taste up a little bit with maybe
Yeah.
some lemon, lime, and maybe a little bit of fruit, whether it's just strawberries because those are a little lower sugar. I
The
think
red
that's
fruits.
good.
Yeah.
The
Actually,
antioxidants.
I was doing it for several months. You just get bored.
Mm,
That's the thing, right? So I do have a friend that he can eat the same thing, everything, like every day for a year, right?
yeah,
I don't have that stamina to just do the
me
same
neither.
thing every day.
I can't do it.
So
I can't do
then
it.
yeah, I do cycle them sometimes, like maybe 3 months of taking that, because to be honest, it's like 400-500 calories.
Yeah.
which that's kind of one of the tricks, right? To make sure that you are, if you are trying to lose weight, to kind of count how many calories you are consuming, and that smoothie, because you put a little yogurt, you put the fruits, and in some
Or
cases,
seeds, flax
yeah,
seeds, chia seeds, those high in
yeah,
calories too.
and on top of that, maybe your protein, right? Like 1 scoop or 2 scoops of protein. Then yeah, you're adding up maybe 450, 500 calories on that shake. But
Hmm.
again, it's maybe a meal, right? Maybe that's actually your breakfast or your dinner.
Hmm.
But very good quality ingredients, right? On that, and you blend the veggies, which
Hmm.
by that point you cannot even taste the spinach or the kale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real good point. Well, so in the news lately, there's been a lot of talk about kind of some of the newer interventions, and by
Hmm.
interventions, I just mean like things that people are doing to try and mitigate or try to reduce the effects of our daily diet and things like that, right? So some of these new interventions are these GLP-1 agonists, like semaglutide, which is kind of the main ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. Have you heard about these?
Yeah, yeah. They and actually I know people that they have been using it. So um, I think that the difference though between Ozempic and Wegovy is that Wegovy is more tailored to losing weight.
Mm.
When Ozempic, it has the semaglutide as well, right? Both of them,
Mhm.
and it's just interesting that these medicines are for diabetes or for insulin resistance, right?
Mhm.
And they noticed that they were very good for losing weight. What's your take there on using these medicines to kind of help you? Um,
So I think in general, it's probably a good thing, especially for those that are really overweight and that have diabetes, just because
mhm.
being obese and having diabetes just lead to so many other
Issues.
illnesses
Hmm.
down the line if you don't take care of it. So the fact is though is like if you're already to the point that you have are starting to see weight gain like that, and starting to see maybe higher sugars and things like that, you've already done some damage to your body that's making you get there. So you know it's hard to reverse a lot of that overnight, right? It took you
Hmm.
10 years to get to that point. You're not going to be able to undo that in a month. So it's also going to be a journey to be able to undo all of the things that you were doing to get you to that point. But it doesn't mean you can't start now. I mean, that's a good thing about these things is I think it helps by keeping people motivated because you see the results, I think, pretty quickly, and you probably feel them too. I heard that with like Ozempic and Wegovy, you get a lot of what is it called, like gastrointestinal, your stomach hurts, a lot of distress. A lot of people are throwing up or having diarrhea, things like that. So it's like but at the same time, you're probably eating less,
Yeah,
and you don't
yeah,
have the same cravings, right?
yeah. Or the energy, right? Some people they need the craving for the energy or whatever it is, right? So, talking about losing weight, and they're. I mean, I don't think that they are wrong. I think that they have to be supervised,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. Like, don't get in the second market. I know that like people go like in the internet or whatever, right? Just try to get the meds. I know sometimes insurance here in America, right, is like some of these things are like $1,000 a pop. So
Yep.
it's like, but people again, sometimes insurance companies they don't want to pay because, like, well, maybe obesity is not a big
It's
problem.
not a disease, but
It's not
am
a disease,
I
right?
diabetes? It is. It is.
Exactly. So I think that maybe, hopefully, when these drugs are getting more, they are already widespread. But what I mean is like the government start actually saying, you know what, maybe even try to subsidize these things, right? So because it becomes a lot of an issue down the road, right? When you have all of these people with different type of problems, right? So I am pro this as long as kind of they are supervised or you know what you're doing, right? Like if you are a doctor or you understand a little bit this and you can measure your own yourself, sure. I mean, why not, right? Use any of the tools that can be. The other one that is common that I have couple people that I know, testosterone. Like if you
Mm.
are for both, I know females and males,
Okay.
and the females also to lose weight as well. But for men, it's super important testosterone to make sure that you are in a healthy range, and obviously more for older people, right? And I think that the problem with sometimes some of these is that if you use it, you might actually have to continue using it for forever, right? So unless you are cycling them, like
Mhm.
if you go to see the content from bodybuilders, they call them cycles, which basically they take it for 6 to 10 weeks and then they stop it, right? Almost at the same time, if you are on testosterone for 10 weeks, maybe you have to stop for almost 10 weeks as well. Then you can resume. So that way
Mhm.
you don't shut down your testes.
Oh, I get it. Since you're bringing it into your body stops. It's like if you're not using the muscle, it's going to shrink. That's the same thing that happens.
You use it or lose it, right? So it's
Use
like
it
if you
or
don't,
lose it. Ah, makes sense.
if you're not using your testes, guess what? Your own production of testosterone, you will shut it down, right? Which actually that's what happened to a lot of these bodybuilders. And by the
Yeah.
way, there are many ways to kind of do it, but usually these type of drugs, you have to inject them, like
Mhm.
Ozempic, testosterone. You literally have to inject them on your body, and because you cannot take pills for at least for these
Mhm.
two. It's more efficient if they get into your blood system through an injection.
That's true. Well, and if you are thinking about it, and talk to your doctor about it. Like
Mm.
they'll let you know what your options are. And if you are scared of these needle things, I think there are some pill forms. I think there's some other ones called like Manjaro, things like that. And there's some that are daily pills, I think, too, that are just now starting to come out.
Yeah.
So really talk to your doctor. And I guess that's another thing here to really call out. I mentioned earlier, right? The Latino thought is like you go into the hospital, you never come back out. Like develop that relationship with your doctor, and I would say do it early. Like don't wait until there's something wrong with you. Try use it as a preventative thing.
Yeah. Just a comment here. Remember that maybe 100 years ago, that relation was very close, right? Doctors will come to your house and they will look at you, right? And so uh, it changed a lot. But that relation, yeah, I totally agree. I think that you always have to have your lawyer, right, your accountant, and your doctor, because you never know. And I think that uh, change them. If you don't trust them, just move on, right? Like basically, why if you cannot even talk these type of things to which they are intimate, they are like private, right? But
Mhm.
uh, if you're not comfortable asking, hey, I think that I'm gaining a little bit of weight, is there a way that maybe you can prescribe me some of the new drugs that is helping me for weight loss? And if you don't have that relationship, then yeah, change them, because maybe that's not the right doctor for you.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up because there's actually studies that show like um for brown and black people, sometimes their mortality rates are higher with if they don't have that right connection in terms of like race and things like that. So if you're Latino and you feel more comfortable talking to a Latino, go find a Latino. They can
Yeah.
understand. They understand the culture. They understand your family. They understand your background a little bit more than maybe a white doctor or even a black doctor or something like that. There's nothing wrong. It's a personal choice. Like go with who you feel more comfortable with, who actually listens to you, who doesn't make assumptions. That's really important. So thanks for bringing that up, Gomez, because I think it's important. You have a choice of
Yeah.
who you go
I'll,
to.
I will not tell the who is my doctor or the place where I go, but I like to do my own research, and I will tell my doctor like, no, I think that I need this study. It's like I saw it on Google.
It's so true. It should be a conversation. It needs to be a conversation.
Yeah.
You
So
you know who's going to care the most about your health?
yeah,
Yourself.
yourself. Yeah, yourself.
Yourself.
Yeah.
You got to be your own advocate.
It's like I always tell people when they are. I do this analogy, which is imagine that you are actually in your teens, and suddenly you have to decide what car you want to get, and then the person will tell you, yeah, I'm gonna get a Ferrari, I'm gonna get a Suburban, whatever it is that your car that you want.
Mm.
But here's the catch: you're gonna use it for the next 80 years. You will not be able to change it, right? You will have to be able to maintain it. There is maybe a little bit of here, there's a couple upgrades here and there. And people start thinking that, well, now guess what? That's your body. That's your meat suit, right?
Your meat suit.
It's
I like
like
that.
that's what it is. Like you literally are given a body,
Yeah.
your meat suit, and then it's like, hey, you won't be able to change it, right? We might be
Yeah.
able to upgrade it, but you have to take care of it.
Yeah.
So and that's what health is, right? Some of these things that we're talking about.
Hmm. Well, talking a little bit again, still about the interventions, just a little bit. We did mention the semaglutide, like Wegovy and Ozempic and things like that, even Manjaro. Sometimes these are really expensive. Even with
Yeah.
insurance, they can be expensive. If you look at some of the studies, it's like 4 or 5%, I think, something like that, on weight loss that you end up seeing with some of these GLP-1 agonists. There's a one tried and true one that's still also around, which is metformin. That's kind of your go-to for doctors for diabetes, but that isn't necessarily for weight loss, just because I don't think it's FDA approved for that, and so doctors can only prescribe it off-label for weight loss. But I think it has similar results. So if you see that is something that's you can't afford, like those semaglutide ones, ask your doctor about metformin. Is that something that you can do?
Yeah.
To get similar, I mean, one of the things though that you can do though is a lot of people are doing fasting these days. They call it intermittent fasting. Have you seen this, Mando?
Yeah. I also have done it though, because think about it. We before we didn't have like stores and everything. Sometimes maybe you didn't even eat in one day. So
Yep.
the fasting on the early humans, it was kind of a given, right? You will actually have to be hunting yourself or gathering, right?
Yeah.
Or literally sometimes you will not have food. So it will kind of force and that's the reason why we are wired or built to be able to store, because in theory we didn't have the food available.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, right now it's like 30 seconds, you go to your fridge and you open and there is ice cream there, right?
Is that one of the food groups? Ice cream,
I guess.
dairy. Yeah,
There is
dairy.
yeah, there's protein, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, fasting is a good way. I personally like to stretch it from the last day to maybe 13. Obviously, if you can do more, even better, right? Hours.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe at 11, 10 or 11 at the previous night, and stop eating, just drink water, right? Till the next day. If you can get it up to almost noon, that's an awesome fasting, kind of a way for you to have that many hours, right? Without no food.
Yeah. So, and just to break it down, I think fasting, uh, there's a lot of, I guess, ways to do fasting. So, like what Mando mentioned here, that might be called like a 16-8 fast. So that means you are fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8 hours. Now, you might say, I can't eat for 16 hours. You got to realize, like, sleeping that counts as fasting because you're not eating during that time. So that 16-hour fast, there's usually like 8 hours or 7 hours, however long you sleep, of where you're not conscious, right? You're sleeping, so that helps a lot. So like Mando mentioned, you maybe you have your dinner at 6 and you don't eat again until the next day, at lunch, maybe a late lunch or something like that, 2 p.m. What if, and for those that have done that and are trying to see, okay, what's the next thing I can do, people do what's called OMAD. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. So instead of doing that 16-hour fast, you can do maybe a 22-hour fast. So you have maybe it's a 22 hours of fasting and 2 hours of eating. Again, this is like in a 24-hour period, a day period, right? So people focus to have either like one big breakfast for 2 hours and then they don't eat again until the next day again at breakfast. So that's kind of the cycle. or they can do the same thing at dinner. There's a couple of different views, and you might want to look into it, what works better for your lifestyle. But some people say it's better to do that one meal. If you're going to do OMAD or one meal a day, do your breakfast, because then you have the whole day to kind of digest and make sure all that your sugars go down, and it's more aligned with your sleep schedule and daylight schedule. There's a lot of kind of science that goes behind it, but you don't want to necessarily overcomplicate it. Just pick a breakfast or dinner, and you can do that once a day. So there's some thoughts around that. And for some people that are doing that and want to take it even a step further, there's also alternate day fasting, where it's basically you're doing OMAD on one day, and then you're not eating the next day, and then you do your OMAD again the next day. So it's basically you're just eating every other day. Now you can do it in different ways too. You can say, I'm going to eat normal this day, and tomorrow I'm not eating at all, and then you're going to do the next day also kind of normal eating, and just alternating one day on, one day off. You can do it that way. And then there's people that even move further and they do like 72-hour fasts or even longer. But, the longer you do that, you really should have like medical supervision, stuff like that. Because especially if you already have health issues or something like that, you don't necessarily know how your body's going to react.
Yeah.
But have you tried any of these, by the way, Mando?
Only the periods. And maybe I try to stretch it a little longer. I don't think that I have done the only one meal a day. I did a juice cleanse. I didn't like it though. At all. I was even losing hair with that one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's I think that I was becoming anemic. So yeah, be careful with these things.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how your body will react, right?
Yeah, that's really true. I tend to try all the biohacking things. I'm just super curious. So I've done your normal 16-8 fast, where you basically 16-8 is basically you can skip dinner. You eat lunch and you skip dinner, and then you get the next day. Yep. Stuff like that. I've done that one. I do OMAD a lot, one meal a day. There is I do that maybe like 3 or 4 days out of the week, like during the work week, and then and then I kind of eat normal the other days. I don't like doing anything like super consistent. Maybe consistent, not the right word, but I like to cycle on and off, to give my body a chance to rest. And, again, I'm not doing it necessarily supervised by doctors. So, they can, like they say, too much of a good thing can sometimes be bad also.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't done alternate day fasting, so I'm not sure of that, but I have done like a 3-day fast.
Yeah. You always when you're talking about health, the most obvious thing is like exercising, right?
Yeah.
So it's and I think that obviously we have to touch on this topic, right? On exercising. But I think that there are many ways to do it. Again, I'm trying to teach my daughters. They are pretty young. Right now they are a little bit more active, right? Than us. But I think that is just getting to that habit to be able to work out. And I was explaining them the type of exercises. I mean, there's a lot of content in YouTube, right? Like a lot of content.
Oh yeah.
But I think that they at least for the ones that have worked for me, I have been in the same kind of weight range. I don't know, maybe 25 years, man.
Yeah.
So it's like when I noticed that my belt is like getting, that's when I actually start dieting and all of that. But I have been like 32 like forever.
Yeah.
Right on that. So the exercise that have worked for me are compound exercises. And lately on my age, I actually doing more calisthenics. And basically it's just your own body, right? So you can do squats, you can do push-ups, you can do pull-ups, and and it's okay if you cannot do them, because I know that depending on your journey, it's very hard. But you'll find a way. Like let's say that a squat, you can actually maybe grab a chair and sit down and literally stand up and sit down on the chair, and just do 100 times that, right?
Yeah.
You'll feel it.
I got a funny story about that. So I think in previous podcasts we mentioned that we've gone to go look at custom furniture and stuff like that. Well, there's a place called High Fashion Home here in Houston that they've got, it's kind of I guess almost big warehouse style. It's got multi floors, whatever, and they've got some unique furniture sometimes. And we went to go try out couches, and we were, of course, testing them all out. Right, with sit down, stand up, go to the next one, sit down, stand
Sure.
up, multiple floors. The next day, we were dying, bro. It was so bad. We could barely move. We're all like looking all decrepit, trying to move because we were just, basically that's all we were doing, just sitting
Yeah,
down,
you were
standing up. But
you
we
were
did it
squatting, right?
over and over and over again. I was like, oh god, we can't do that again. Let's just pick the ones that we like and not sit on everything. So it's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
So the other thing that I do though is because it's very hard. I want to just be acknowledge and be empathetic with everyone. It is hard for a lot of people, right? Actually, there is only the few that they truly enjoy it, right? My mom is one of those that actually she enjoys
For sure.
working out, right? I just do it because I know that I have to do it, but I still don't have that love for doing it. But you can hack it yourself and your mind by just like forcing you. And people think that you have to go to the gym, right? Like, oh shit, I have to put together my clothes and my pants and my like workout clothes and make a whole routine. Like, no, dude. Let me tell you what sometimes I do. Like before I literally go to sleep, I literally sometimes I do like 20 push-ups. Fuck it. I didn't do shit this day. I just will just push-ups like 20, 50 or whatever you want to call it. And just like, all right, I have to do something, right?
That's awesome.
Literally, it takes you 2 minutes, right? And
Yeah.
it's like I want to get into the bed as might as well just
Sandra has, the smart, we both have the little smart watches, and she's like, oh, I just need another, 30 steps to get to like 15,000. She goes, runs around in a circle. I got my steps and I got it in, right?
Dude, which your house has a lot of steps,
we
like
got a lot
for
of steps.
that. So I do actually. That's another. Thanks for bringing it up. Just do 10,000 steps, right? Like get one of these, and sometimes some of these watches are cheap, right?
Yeah.
And it counts your steps. That's a great thing to be able to see it. And if you want to lose weight, well, up it up, right? Like instead of being 10,000, make 20,000 steps, and that will help a lot.
Yeah. You know what? There's some rules of thumbs here that you can use. So one of them, who is it? Maybe Heart Association. I think they say 150 minutes of activity a week is what you want, and you should be in good health. So if you break that down, if you do 30 minutes per work day, or Monday through Friday, 30 minutes, you get your 150 total minutes, and that's what they say is kind of should be a good target. A lot of these step counters on your watches, it's also a good thing. But you know what I also have? So I have a pretty long history of my weight. Because I have one of those smart skills too, and it records your muscle mass and things like that. So it's really interesting. I have like this history, and I can show my doctor, and I could prove, hey man, there's something going on. I've gained weight. I've gained 30 pounds in 1 year. Like that's obviously not normal. Let's run some tests. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's try some things. What can we do? So I think that's really interesting. Know your stats, know your information. But one note on muscle mass, especially with like obesity and things like that, sometimes it's your muscle mass might not be high enough, so you're not burning enough calories. A lot of times nowadays we've got real sedentary jobs where we're just in the office or sitting down all day. Those are things that you can do, to your point, like push-ups and things like that. Try to develop some of these bigger muscles in your body, and that'll help you burn a little bit more calories throughout the day. And there's this thought of like the afterburn, like even after you do exercise, because you're doing this exercise, that calorie burn is going on, even longer and throughout the day. So it helps you lose a little bit more weight.
Yeah. And the other thing is that I know that sometimes the membership or the time, right, is the problem, right? There is ways like now I don't go to the gym anymore. I do actually set up a room in my house to be able to have that, and I have sometimes even simplistic ways like bands. You can buy those like for $20-$30 on Amazon, and literally some of those they have a nice resistance, right? And even for people that they cannot do pull-ups, so like your whole weight.
I used to be able to, not right now, buddy.
Yeah, I still can't. I'm telling you, I can do maybe 20 in a row, right? Not 20 pull-ups, which are hard.
That's
I know that
good.
there's
The zero.
So for people that can, I recommend with the bands. You
Mhm.
literally make the movement with the band, and then you start getting your muscles, right? So, or the other thing that you can do is to buy one of those kind of pull-ups bars, and then you can try to jump and just let yourself go, and even trying to just force you, you'll still work the same muscle group. And again, there is tons of videos out there, but the point here is to make sure that you don't have the excuse of like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. I mean, you can do it at your house, at your home.
That's a super good point. Yeah, well, I've also got a home gym. I think we got the a rower, the what is it, the treadmill, the weight
Hmm.
sets, things like that. But honestly, you don't even need all that. Like Mando is saying, like all you got to do is these your body weight, push-ups. And if push-ups are too hard, you could do them on your knees or you could do them against the wall. Like there's always ways to make them a little bit easier depending where you are in your journey, or a little bit harder if you're a little bit more advanced. And you don't need all this fancy stuff. The important thing is kind of just keep moving and things like that. But there is a distinct difference between kind of like aerobic exercise and kind of strength training.
Hmm.
And there's some ways of targeting, like if you're trying to lose weight, they say even walking is really just enough. You don't need to even be running. It's really
Dude,
just
it's
walking.
so underrated walking.
Hmm.
Like literally, the only thing that the problem though is that is the time. So
Yeah.
because if you can run it in 10 minutes, you're done in 10 minutes, right? But you can do the same amount of expenditure, right, on your calories
Yeah.
with just walking for an hour. So, and here is a great point. If you are truly trying to lose weight, this is simple, right? I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's simple to understand. Is the number of amount of calories that you're consuming versus the number of calories that you're burning. But if you don't know either, it's going to be very tough, right? So just to give you an idea, roughly, it's almost 3,500 calories equivalent to a pound. So if you want to lose 1 pound, then you have to burn about that number of calories. So, and that's literally if you want to lose it in a week. If you're obviously you have to measure your own maintenance, and what they call in the maintenance calorie. Sometimes it oscillates, right, depending on your metabolism and all of that. But it's very easy to figure out, which is you start seeing when you start losing weight, or you're flat, or you're not gaining weight. And basically, if you're not there is no movement, then you figure out your calorie. Most people in the type of high or average is about 2,000, right? But again, some people like me, mine is very low though. Mine is like 1,600, which is like super low, which sucks because actually for me to be able to lose weight, I have to burn a lot of calories.
Yeah. And for those of y'all that are kind of interested and want to look a little bit deeper into like what are specific numbers for you, there's calculators on the web. So if you look up like TDEE calculator, uh, you can find something where you can plug in your height, your weight, and if you are active or not active, and it'll give you some
Estimate.
ranges and estimates to go by. TDEE, for those of you not familiar with, that's called, or stands for, the total daily energy expenditure. So that's basically, if you're just sitting around doing nothing, how many calories does your body burn on its own? And like Gomez said, that can range between 1,300, 2,000 calories, and it just depends on where you are in your journey, right? But this calculator, if you look it up, will help you figure out kind of where you are for yours, and it'll give you suggestions on how many calories you should be eating in a day to either try gain weight, because some people are trying to gain weight, or to lose weight, to do that. So check that out. I think it's really good information to have and give you an idea. And in that same note, I think a lot of people don't realize how many calories they're eating in a day. Just
Yeah.
because, especially if you're eating out a lot, you don't know the ingredients that are being
Yeah.
used. There's the people for restaurant, their main goal is to get you to come back. How do they get you to come back? They were going to make sure that food tastes good. How do you make that food taste good? You're going to put sugar in there. You're going to put a lot of salt in there. You're going to put in there things that aren't necessarily good for you. a lot of butter, they'll go again, make it taste good so people come back. And a lot of those things are going to be fighting you. So if you are eating out a lot and you're seeing some weight gain, or you're seeing that you're not able to drop weight, it's likely that you're eating probably more calories than you think. And so it's important to try and figure that out. Now there's apps for that. There's apps for everything nowadays. You can do like MyFitnessPal, help you track your calories and your macros, but you are getting a little bit more advanced there. But don't get overwhelmed with it. Start with the little things and kind of work your way up. I think you got your whole life to kind of try and fine tune and figure things out. The important thing is, get started somewhere and you work your way up.
Yeah, my personal suggestion here is to find something that you can stick for longer, right? Because sure, you can lose a lot of the weight, but you'll gain it back, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there is a lot of diets like low carb diet, ketosis diet, like keto and whatever, right? To be honest, I don't do any of those because I do want to eat the food that I want and I want to maintain it, right? Like I said, I've been like in the same way for many, many years. And it's just about that in my mind is something that I can sustainable. I'm looking something that I can put in as my habits, and it's like I'm not truly in a diet because it's just the way that I live.
It's your
Right?
new lifestyle, right?
This is my new lifestyle. So that's maybe
Mhm.
the trick here. Just find your new lifestyle. Uh, Maybe you want ice cream, but maybe you only eat it once a week, right? Maybe you like some Taco Tuesday, right? Well, sure, maybe once a week, or whatever it is that fits your style and your liking. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think for sure that's great advice. If you can stick with it, that's going to be the best diet for you. And I think we mentioned, calories in, calories out. That's a good staple to have. But you got to realize sometimes you've already done maybe a little bit of damage to your metabolic health, right?
Mhm.
And so there's things that may, even if you're doing a small calorie deficit, your body may be resistant to changing your weight because it's holding on to that weight for whatever reason, or some of your hormones or mechanisms aren't working exactly the way they should be. In a lot of cases, even if you're not like diabetic or pre-diabetic yet, you might be a little bit of insulin resistant just because of over the years not taking care of your body and things like that. And I'm guilty of this. I remember having a conversation when I was younger, maybe in my late 20s or something like that, and I wasn't super heavy or anything like that. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because obviously it's not having a negative effect on me.
Mhm.
I'll wait until, I start seeing, oh man, I'm gaining weight, or, oh man, I have to go to the doctor for stuff. Then I'll change what I'm doing. So I was being more reactive, and that definitely, I'll tell you right now, that was not a smart thing of me to do, because now to reverse, like I said, if you've been have bad habits for 10 years, it's so hard to reverse all the damage that you've done. And so it's a little bit harder to start to lose weight and things like that. So be proactive with those things.
Yeah, and there are a couple things that you can see. Like I'll discuss the ones for men's, right? Sometimes if drinking enough water, everybody says that, right? But how do you can tell if you're drinking enough water? So and there is literally a very easy trick. It's like you see the color of your pee, right? If it is too yellow, it's like, man, you have to drink more water.
Yeah.
So that's your literally your check mechanism, right? Like
Yeah.
almost if it is transparent, great, right? It's like you're drinking enough water, right? Or if you're drinking too much beer or too much wine or whatever, you'll see in the color of your own pee, and as well your your number two, right? So
Yeah.
uh, there are ways for you to see it, or like hormonal. For men, there's a very simplistic way if your hormones are working, right? Like in the morning, it's normal for people to have like an erection. So so there is a way for you to see it, right? And again, it's just if it's not, then guess what? Maybe your hormones are not working. Maybe your
Yep.
testosterone is pretty low. Maybe you are too overweight or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
So check them out. It's like you're still are hitting this earth and get better.
Yeah, that's right. These are things that you can talk to your doctor about. So
Mhm.
again, have that relationship, develop that, feel safe about it. Now, of course, one of the kind of, we're talking about insulin resistance and things like that, and you're like, well, how I don't even know what that is, or how do I know if I have that, things like that. I mean, one of the basic things is if you're gaining weight and things like that, kind of unexplained, you think you're doing the right things, it could be that you've got some insulin resistance. There's some metabolic health issues there. Again, talk to your doctor about that. But here's the thing. Once you're to a point that you're obese and you're not able to get that weight off, and obese, you might be a little bit overweight, a little pudgy, but obese, your BMI, look that up, understand what that number is. That's kind of your body mass index. That's a ratio of the amount of fat that you have on your body according to your height.
If it jiggles, it's fat.
If it jiggles, it's fat. Yeah. That measurement is not a perfect tool. So, I know there's a lot of people that don't trust it, but it's something. So start there. That's a kind of a general rule of thumb. But here's the thing. If you're getting to the point where you're jiggling a lot, more than likely you're getting inflammation throughout your body, things like that. And inflammation, in a lot of the research shows that inflammation is the root of a lot of diseases and illnesses. So, you're doing a disservice to your body in that way. Your eating habits, maybe you're binging. You're thinking, no, I'm pretty good. And then you have that one cheat meal. But when you do that cheat meal, you're like binge. That's also developing maybe habits that aren't that great. If here's a tricky one also, it's like snoring. Like you think, well, lots of people snore. It's not a big thing, but you got to be aware that there's a slight difference in snoring and then having like sleep apnea. That's where like maybe you stop breathing a little bit when you're snoring. That means you're not getting enough rest. You could be, your other hormones start getting out of whack. You start getting stress hormones like cortisol. That will also impact your insulin potentially and your glucose levels. So it's all interrelated and it gets complicated. So once you get into this realm where you have that obesity, it has this domino effect, right? And you can even start getting things like a fatty liver. And for Latinos, I think Latinos in Texas, there's studies that show like there is a very, very high increase amount of incidence of liver cancers and things like that for Latinos in Texas. I think it probably has a lot to do with some of our diet and our lifestyle. So you have to be aware of that. And like Mando was saying earlier, looking at your bowel movements, your pee and things like that. If you have something like really, really dark pee, like it's almost brownish, that's a sign of some type of potentially some liver disease. So if you do see that, see your doctor or get some tests done, because they can measure this stuff with your blood. And you'll be able to see, okay, yeah, there's some inflammation going on in your liver, or maybe you're developing a fatty liver because of the obesity and things like that, or maybe you're drinking too much, maybe you're just drinking too many Modelos, and that's causing issues with your liver. But I think for Latinos, that liver thing is something really important, just because we've seen in the studies like Latinos stand out a lot for those liver issues, especially in Texas.
For sure. And I think that health is a whole gambit, right? Obviously, sometimes it's the most evident, which is like maybe obesity, but also it could be mental though, like mental health, right? You can see a person and it looks like, oh, it looks pretty healthy, right? Young or old. But that's another thing, right? Like how do you treat your own like mental health? And kind of the sickness there, if you want to call it sickness, is kind of depression. And it happens to everyone, right? It could happen to a teenager, it could happen to an old person, right? So for many circumstances, I'll tell you this, I'll be vulnerable here. I do tend to get depressive, right? And because I have maybe, and I think that maybe sometimes it's my own chemistry in my brain, which now I'm older, I'm able to understand those cycles. It's like, you're here, old friend.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So, but I think that now I can manage it very well, right? I understand my cycles, and I can get out, and I can actually, again, these are my perspectives, they are my opinions. Obviously, you can get a professional, which I do. I do actually. I'm the opinion. Get a therapist, get a psychologist, or whatever, right? Whatever can help you, or a friend, right?
Hmm.
But I'll tell you that even when I was younger, I went with so many therapists. And in the beginning was because probably I had some sort of ADD that people didn't understood. Like, this kid is like a spawn of devil. That's literally what they say.
I totally get you on that one. Yeah, I
So
had a similar thing growing up.
yeah, which again I didn't comply. I was a little more like outspoken, extroverted, or whatever, right? So,
Hmm.
but then it kind of creates some traumas, right? It's like, hey, why nobody understands me, blah blah. But when you're young, you don't know better, right?
Right.
Um, basically they will send me with therapists. Then you start realizing, what the heck, why they're sending me with therapy? Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Right. So, and on top of that, just the typical cycles of your like teenager and 20s and so on, right? So, uh now that I'm older, I tend to think that is basically an unfinished thought, and that's how the way that I see these things. Or some people might have some traumas, right? Some small traumas and a big trauma. But for me, I think that maybe the way to see this is that it's our own prison in our own head. And it's funny because sometimes we do have the key. Like the prison is like we build it and we literally, like, the door is always open. And sometimes it's just realizing the conclusion, right? Like um and I know that it sounds very obvious and very easy, but when you are there, it's not, right? Like maybe you can see a person that dated someone and suddenly they are not, right? They broke up and the person is sad and depressed. Obviously, until the person doesn't realize, it's like, hey, I have to move on, that person move on. And it has a closure on that mentally. That's when they can start moving on. And again, sounds very simple, but it's very hard when you're in that spot, right? And you can name it for any of the things. But I think that that's kind of where you develop a little bit more your awareness and all of that. What's your take there?
Yeah, no, I think mental health is just as important as your physical health. In a lot of ways, it's even more important because it impacts everything that you do every day. So, um, we encourage everybody to go out, talk to a professional if you need it. If you're even unsure about it, it doesn't hurt to try to talk to somebody. There's a lot of services out there that
Hmm.
you don't even need to have
Online.
insurance online. You can talk to people, and it's probably a good idea. I'll do a plug for my cousin. She has a service like that where they're all licensed kind of therapists and counselors and things like that she has online. I'll put it
Put
in
the
the show
link.
notes.
Put the
I'll
link
put a
in the
link
show
in the
notes.
show notes, and I think it'd be good to have her here to talk to us. Um, one of our feature episodes, because she has her own business. She started this kind of from the ground up, so I think it'd be interesting to hear her story about it. But all of this is to say that, yeah, it's really important. There's services out there. If you have no money, a lot of people will work with you. It's just really important just to talk to people if you really need it, because
Hmm.
you know we all care about each other, and we want to make sure people get out of funks, whatever it is, that help them dig out of holes if they need it.
Yeah. In my journey through all of this mental health, there is this therapy called RTT. Are you familiar with it?
I don't think I've done or heard of RTT. Mm-mm.
Okay, so this thing is called RTT, but it's basically a rapid transformational therapy, or rapid therapy transformational. Basically, when somebody told me about it, I was like, what the heck is this? But, I'll try it. Sometimes insurance doesn't cover it, so you're going to have to sell out the money. And they're a little pricey though. And the reason why they are pricey is because they say that maybe in one session or two sessions, uh, you're done. So that was actually pretty cool. Like, oh, this is interesting. And
That is
me
rapid.
being, and me being me, like, sign me up, baby.
Yeah.
so so yes, I start looking. There is a kind of like a directory of these therapists, right? And uh, and I just found one therapist. The first thing that the therapist, basically, they ask you to do the formulary, like the same thing that all of them they do. But when I had my first session, it was online. This was, I think, that pre-COVID. Yeah, it was pre-COVID, which was kind of weird in my mind because, like, doctor online. Again, this is pre-COVID. But anyways, we had it, And the therapist is like in San Diego or some portion there in Cali. Uh, and the person said, by the way, a part of the process is that I'm gonna hypnotize you.
Oh, interesting.
And I was in my mind like, what the heck is this, right? Like them
Uh-huh.
hippies.
Give me a pill instead. I don't know.
Yeah, basically, it's like, what are the drugs? No, it's like I said, when you know what, I want to change. I want to give it a try. I'm not going to criticize. I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to go with the flow, right? And then it's like, and she's like, well, we're gonna do a couple exercises, and let me see if you are capable to be hypnotized or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was super skeptical on this, right? Like, come on, like seriously. Anyways, I'm not kidding. In 10 seconds, I was in trance.
Wow.
Like, what the heck, you know? And I freak out a little bit, you know, like, so I pop, and like, and she's like, it's okay, you know.
Yep.
In Spanish, she will say something like flojito and cooperando, which means like just be loose, right?
Yeah.
Let it go.
Just accept whatever comes your way.
Basically. Anyways, it is awesome because what happens is that when you're in hypnosis, you are in a stage where it's a little more clear, right? There is no chatter. And then you are able to work the problem that you have in your mind, right? So 100% I recommend it, right? Like I said, it's pricey and some people might want to take advantage, or like any other person, just do your own research and try to find somebody that you have it. But then you go into the thing and then you are actually traveling to the scenario, and because you're almost like in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to see it very clear. Then you can start thinking, dissecting your own ideas. And then the interesting part of this is that the therapists, they do a recording, and actually you are like listening to the recording every day for like 20 or whatever days.
Ah,
And then yeah, literally for that I only went 2 times, and that's it. Like, never again. So again, I'm not sure if it was me, but basically that's what the therapist said, that it's normal to see this type of things.
pretty cool. Yeah. And now that you describe it, I think maybe I have heard of it, but I don't know if this is what it's called. I have a friend where he medical doctor from India, and now he works here in the U.S. and he's not medical doctor here, but he has done kind of some hypnotherapy before, and I think he said like before is like some people they want to like quit smoking or something like that, so they'll go in and they'll do kind of this hypnotherapy type session and things like that.
It is the
But
same. Yeah.
it's similar, right?
Yeah,
Well,
people that they cannot lose weight, there might be a mental component.
mhm.
People that they cannot quit smoking, maybe there might be a trauma there. Why, right? And then they realize it, and then they start changing the behavior. So yeah, even if you are not having the different type of depression, right? Like the normal that we think, it
Mhm.
might be maybe you are trying to get rid of some habit.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I would say we did this. We partnered on a project together once, and it was really interesting. And it was kind of a combined thing here. So again, we did it like a guided meditation for a group. So it's not necessarily hypnotherapy per se, but we did guided meditation where you get into kind of this, I guess, focused trance or whatever. And again, that's where his expertise is at. And
Mm-hmm.
we combined it with something that I'm certified in, which is something called Strengths Finder, or it's a lot of it is kind of this personality characteristics thing. But we did an assessment with some folks. They figure out what their like top 5 strengths are or whatever things that
Mm-hmm.
they're focusing on. And in this guided meditation, what we did is we asked people to, in their mind, go through a scenario where they're using the strength and things like that. And they're focusing on the strengths. They're thinking of scenarios where they're using this particular thing and they focus on it. And it's a way of basically amplifying that strength within yourself. And it was like maybe a 30 or 40 minute like meditation session, but it was focusing on amplifying whatever your strength is. So it was a large group of people that we did it with, probably like 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
And, everyone had their own strengths, but, it's all within your head. And we did it. It was pretty interesting. I will tell you, no, this is weird. I got out of this, and maybe just because I had my eyes closed for 40 minutes. When I opened up my eyes, I saw auras for like 5 seconds, and then everything kind of disappeared. That was really weird. I'd never done like a meditation or anything like that before. So I'm like, holy shit, I got superpowers. I don't know. But no, really interesting things there. But yeah, it sounds like it could be similar.
Yeah, I think that also talking about this, uh, there is a lot of information on psychedelics right now. They're getting very popular, right? And in some states are actually getting legalized, right? So these are turbo, right? To be able to get into, and this literally is ancient knowledge, right? You have like in the pre-Hispanics, you have like the magic mushrooms, or you have the ayahuasca, right? Or the peyote in the north side of Mexico where they grow, right? So it is interesting that a lot of the scientists and there was a whole wave of all of these, right, on the 60s, 70s, with also LSD and all of that. Look, I'm not gonna say anything on this in this regard, because I think that is also, it's a tool, right? Like you can grab a knife and you can make it, use it for good, or you can use it for bad, right? So do your own research, go to a place where maybe they're legal, right? Because at least in America, in some areas are not. There is a good book and a good documentary from this guy, How to Change Your Mind. That's the name of the book, and the author is Michael Pollan. The guy did a great research, and again, there is a Netflix documentary that kind of explain you literally that, how to biohack your mind, right? And again, these tools, they can help you to fast track if you're trying to do some fixing of some of the traumas. It's not helping you, right? And it's not easy. Let me tell you, of a person that I have my own things, it takes time, right? Like losing weight, as you said, resetting your mind.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, I mean, I've in school and things like that, we've seen things like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, things that, hey, go look that up, because in these things, there's a lot of interventions that you can do, that you can self-implement. I mean, of course, it's probably better if you do it with medical supervision, but there are apps out there that help you, like maybe reduce stress, breathing exercises. Those are all interventions, but it's around changing your behavior or being aware of your behavior. So if you're interested in stuff like that, look up CBT, cognitive behavioral therapies. There's apps out there that do different things, so you never know what'll pop up. But of course, I'll reiterate, talk to medical professionals if there's something that seriously that you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes it is perception, right? Some people might be like, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too whatever, right? So there is also some level of vanity or aesthetic, right, on all of this.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you see people like my mom is like, I think that I'm gonna start getting some Botox.
Hey, well, I don't know how old your mom is, but Botox, aren't you supposed to do it like before you get wrinkles or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, but I told my mom, it's like just make sure that you can smile, right?
I know, right?
So you can cover.
Honestly, I have this TMJ, and I heard that you could do Botox into that muscle, and it like loosens it up. I might look into that. You might not see me like smiling for a little while if I do get that.
It's like, are you sad? Are you smiling?
Right. Oh man.
Well, I mean, we talk about losing weight, right? Obviously, you have liposuction, right? Or for the females that they are trying to create a more figure, right? Like a breast augmentation, breast lifts, etc. What is your take on all of this?
Well, I think a lot of it plays into also your mental health. A lot of folks, you look good, you feel good, you look good. There's it's kind of intertwined. And I've seen some of those TV shows. What is it, like the plastic surgeons? They usually do like this intake interview where they're like, "Hey, are you like mentally stable? Like, is there something else going on?" So I think it is kind of intertwined, but I think, a lot of these things, there's probably a lot of money in there. I had recently looked into buying a business that did kind of these non-clinical type interventions. So it might be just like facials and maybe like chemical peels, because I think it's a pretty successful, lucrative area where you're not necessarily cutting people open and things like that, but there's kind of
Mhm.
this lightweight version of that.
Yeah. Would you do it? Like,
Mm,
would you be onto those type of things?
Uh, I don't see anything wrong necessarily with it. I mean, so yeah, maybe if there's a need, maybe if I wanted to give myself a six pack, take a little shortcut there. Yeah, I mean, hey, why not?
Yeah, I think that that's what it is, right? Like, in some instances like that, right? Like, that it can be something that will give you the benefit, like in 1 week versus 3 years, right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, what about you? I mean, do you see it worthwhile as a shortcut, or are you just like, no, I'm gonna do it the old fashioned way no matter what?
no, I think that I see it like in some instances when you have tried everything, right? Like, you have tried everything, or as well. I think that is perception, right? Like, for the ladies, if like they are like literally super flat and they want to increase, like, why not, right? Like, as you
Mhm.
said, it's part of their mental. I think that I respect that. So, for me, I think that is like I want to try to do it like more in a habit, but in some cases, like, my eyesight, right? It's like I see it like LASIK, right? Like, in
Mhm.
some cases, you might need it. Well, why not, right? As much as what
Yeah,
technology is there and the tool is there, why not? But
yeah,
yeah, I think that the last topic that I wanted to touch on this is like, okay, we discussed different things, how we can prevent, right? Like, prevention. Uh, One obvious thing is like test often, right? Like,
yeah.
people do their yearly physical checkup to be able to catch problem. That's great, right? But in my opinion, you can actually almost test yourself almost every day, right? Like, even you mentioned it, like the watches.
Mhm.
Technology is getting so good, right? Like, you can see your oxygen, you can see your electrocardiogram, right? For that, your to your basically to continuously monitor. And I think that you have a monitor for your sugar at some point, right?
Yeah, like I started looking into it because I was really curious. I mean, I had this weight gain. I'm like, what's going on? So I asked my doc. By the way, you ask your doctor and you ask him pretty convincingly, they're gonna give you what you want a lot of times. I asked for a CGM. I'm like, look, I'm just curious, like what's going on? I want to measure my blood glucose and see if I see any patterns. I think I mentioned it before. I wanted to see, okay, if I eat this, what does it do to my sugar? If I
Mm-hmm.
run after I eat, what does it do to my sugar? It's just I do it just because a lot of experimentation. I'm very curious, but these things called CGMs, I think I've mentioned Freestyle Libra, but there's I think a few different products that can be used here in the U.S. And really, all it is it has like this little micro needle, and you
Mm-hmm.
stick it onto your arm, and you barely feel it. It has an
Mm-hmm.
applicator, and it stays on your arm for a couple weeks at a time, and you kind of change them out. But you'll be able to see just about real time, like you just scan it with your phone.
Yeah.
It's got an app, and you can see the fluctuations throughout the day and things like that. So I think it's really interesting just to see, because everybody's body is different, and you want to see how your body reacts to different scenarios and different things.
Yeah. A friend of mine got COVID and then got dengue. So it's
Oh
like
wow!
double whammy. Yeah, double whammy.
Wait, what is
And
dengue? Is that like malaria or something like
it's
that?
similar. This is another type of a virus. And uh, he basically has a Apple Watch. And then he noticed that he had an arrhythmia. Then he
Mm.
went to the doctor, and basically it's kind of the same prevention, right? He was able to catch it very early, and then it's like, hey, maybe stay here a couple days because maybe let's watch you, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. On the same token, like I've seen the weight scales,
mm,
that do the scans on your feet. They'll check your water content, your muscle ratios, your body fat, right? All of that, as well as your weight, and you can keep track of all of that. So I think if you've got, your watch, your weight scale, you're getting your yearly checkups, and sometimes it's twice a year you're doing your checkups,
yeah,
where you're doing your checking your cholesterol. So there's like there's usually a few things that you do when you do your yearly physical, right? They could check your A1C, blood glucose levels. So usually they'll ask you to fast when they draw that blood, so they know what your fasting glucose level is. They'll do the comprehensive metabolic panel, so they basically will check to make sure that you're not missing any, I guess. You're not missing specific minerals, vitamins, things like that. They're taking a look at your cholesterol. They're taking a look at your triglycerides. So all of those things are really important to do. That's like your lipid panels. So, I mean, if you're keeping track of that on a year-to-year basis, you will then be able to see long-term trends. And if they see like long-term trend, you're going up, they're like, okay, there's maybe something there to look at. Let's see if we can make an adjustment and prevent you from getting to a point where you're like pre-diabetic or diabetic. Again, the earlier you catch it, the better, to your point.
Yeah, sometimes they are like simple things though. Like sometimes it's just literally get out and get some sunshine. When I was in Seattle, I became vitamin deficient, right, on vitamin D because there was not enough sun. And look, I'm brown, right? So I need some sunshine. So yeah, things like that. Just checking in your panel, your vitamins, right? And sometimes it's like literally, I just needed to get more sun.
That's true. I did that also. I think there was a trend a few years ago that they're like, everybody's vitamin D deficient. You get some sun. I started taking supplements, stuff like that. But I never had it checked again because they're like, you're fine. But yeah,
Yep.
I don't know.
For sure. And obviously, if you can get start building your own tooling at home, like your thermometer, your being able to check your pressure, get your smartwatch, then you start building some of these. Even for sugar, the tests, they are like, I don't know, $50, and sometimes the label. So it allows you to see if you have low sugar or high sugar. So there are not that many variables right now that we can check for health, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, and it's it's hard sometimes if you don't have insurance, because a lot of these things, I know, okay, I'll just go to my doctor for it, and it's going to be right $20 or whatever the copay is, and I'll get my stuff. But if you don't have insurance, yeah, it does get a little bit tougher. So maybe at that point you are relying a little bit more on these at-home tools like your weight scales and your smartwatches and things like that. Or if you can get a CGM somehow, you can do that. But well, hopefully we covered, a lot of different things, and I know a lot of it was at the surface level, but it's really just we wanted to present the topic so that you can go and do some reading on your own and look things up, do some Googling, just to make sure that, you understand these things. But a lot of the things that we want to say is that, you try to be a little bit more proactive on these things. But before we kind of go to the closing here, I just want to remind everybody that if you like our content, you're interested in what we're saying, you want to support us, please like, subscribe, and comment on our videos. This is super important for us. The more feedback that we get, the more we can change our channel to kind of suit what people are looking for. It helps our channel grow, so it's really important to try and do that. Again, we have some referrals in the show notes. If you test drive a Tesla, if you buy a Tesla, if you're thinking about a Tesla, use my link in the show notes, and I think we both get something out of it, whether it's like, a tequila bottle or something I think Elon's selling now. I'm not sure, but there's different things that we can that we would both get. So check that out. Closing thoughts, Mando, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about health, so be proactive with your health. Don't be afraid of go to the doctor, right? Try to basically check your stats. We mentioned it there. Exercise and eat your veggies.
Yeah, it's definitely all the basics, right? So again, thanks a lot for being with us today. Go forth sin miedo.
Sin miedo. Peace.
Next time.